Rastaman, it's the perfect tree. I love my marijuana.
All right, there have been so many songs about marijuana in Jamaica and so many different artists have gone there, but there's been an increased demand for local cannabis in the global market space as buyers from various countries seek to acquire the product from medicinal and research purposes. But what are the regulations and limitations with cannabis in Jamaica? To clear the air, Chairman of the Cannabis Licensing Authority, Levon Flynn, is with us this morning. Levon, morning, welcome to Smile Jamaica. How are you?
Hi, morning Neville, morning Simone, how you guys doing?
Well, can't complain, give thanks. Before I go to what I just said, what happened with Epicon? I know you, well, I don't know you personally did it, but I know the authority burned a lot of this stuff, but why did that happen?
Okay, so several things. So let's clarify several things. The initial report came out, it referenced 1,000 plants. It was actually 808 plants. The plants were so what happened is the Epicon had an extension to their license, and under the terms and conditions of a license extension, no cultivation of new crop is allowed. It's only allowed for the completion of existing crop. And when the authority did its checks, it realized that new crop, in fact, was planted during the period of license extension.
That was like a breach of their contractual...
Of their terms and conditions, yes, it was considered a breach.
And that's the only way it could have been dealt with, is to get rid of it?
Yes, so we get in there. The regulations are very specific as it relates to cultivation that is done outside of the terms and conditions of a license. So in effect, based on the regulations, it was considered an illegal grow. And the regulations are very specific that in an instance like that, where ganja is cultivated outside of the terms and conditions of the license, the directive is that it must be disposed of.
Gotcha.
And I want to add that as we alluded to earlier, it was an uncomfortable decision. Uncomfortable because the government actually has as a priority to grow and develop the industry. And this particular act can be seen as counterproductive to that goal. But at the same time, we are primarily a regulator. And it is important that the Jamaican medical cannabis industry can stand up to scrutiny and that its reputation and integrity is intact.
Yeah.
So while I feel for the licensees, it was a costly loss. And
what was the value of it, Levon?
I couldn't say. I don't know. I don't know what the value was.
But it would have been costly nonetheless.
I'm sure it was a couple $1 million.
May I ask you, does this line up with international best practices? Like, are we benchmarking what happens across the world in terms of a similar breach? Is this what would happen somewhere else?
Well, what we use to guide us is the regulations, and this specific act of asking Epicon to dispose of the plants is tied specifically to the Single Convention on narcotic drugs of 1951.
Okay.
So again, a way to understand it is that the Jamaican regulatory framework is a cannabis plant, and the three international drug control conventions as established by the United Nations can be seen as the soil in which that plant grows.
Yeah. All right.
Therefore, it dictates that the environment and the conditions of the soil are going to produce the output of the plant.
Yeah.
So that's a way of looking at it. We have to operate within the regulatory framework to protect our industry, to protect the integrity of our industry, both locally and internationally.
Yeah.
With that said, we do realize the limitations in some of the regulations, and the authority is pursuing making amendments to the regulations so that we can better facilitate industry growth and development.
Right. Yeah. Okay, important.
Yeah. Some people think that we are a little slow. We're moving a little slow. And as I said at the top, that people want our stuff here in Jamaica. Speak to to that fact? Are we really, in fact, moving slow? Is there bureaucracy that's holding up all of this? What's going on with the industry now in Jamaica?
Yeah, well, think about it. We have a very young industry. The industry is only 5 years old. And if you think of all the other global industries or even local industries in Jamaica, which are several decades old, how we have progressed along relatively is not slow. I believe there are a lot of expectations from us because of the emotional and cultural connection to ganja in Jamaica. So persons want to see the industry work, and the government is committed to making the industry work. But the challenges that Jamaica face are not unique. Established markets such as Canada or even California in the United States, which is the biggest cannabis market in the world, they too face many challenges as it relates to regulation and as it relates to successfully commercializing the industry. So we have been making some good progress. For example, you spoke to the international desire for Jamaican ganja. We have been exporting ganja from Jamaica since 2018. And that's something I'd love for persons to understand. While the export regulations are still not completed, the authority established special import-export permits that allow Jamaica to export ganja. And we've exported to over 10 countries since 2018. We've exported ganja flower, or I should say ganja buds, the plant. We've exported ganja oil as well, and we've exported hemp oil. So things are moving along.
How many local players do we have now?
We've issued 82 licenses since 2017.
Whoa. And
Yes.
I'm sure you have more waiting to be approved.
Yes, there is significant interest in the cannabis industry, and what the board is now doing is preparing and equipping the authority to handle that demand, and additionally to be able to make that step change that's needed. Because how I see the industry now, where the Jamaican cannabis industry is in a period of transition, and I like to call it CLA 2.0. When the regulation was amended in 2017, the regulations that were set up were sufficient to allow for the establishment of the industry and for us to do basic administrative things such as process licenses and enforce the regulation. We are now at the stage where more is required, meaning that greater facilitation of business development is needed. And however, that has to be done within the regulatory framework.
Yep.
And we recognize that there are opportunities that exist, and we're actively pursuing those.
Yeah. Sim asked the question, all those licenses are local people, by the way?
So it's a combination of local and international investors. The regulations, however, favor a Jamaican majority for ownership. Okay. So the regulations stipulate that the Jamaican ownership must be over 50% of any company that's being set up. So the formula that we see being used most of the times is 51% Jamaican ownership and 49%
else. Final question from me, Levon. The other thing you keep hearing is that the small man is left out. Not certain what you mean by a small man, to be honest, in this case, but you keep hearing that the small ganja farmer not involved in all of this. If I don't know if that is so, but what is a small farmer, and are they in fact not a part of all of this?
That's a very good point, because small is relative. Some of the traditional farmers who we consider small are pretty large and quite extensive. But what I can say that the authority recognizes that we do need to create a greater inclusivity of the traditional farmers. And we have the cultivator's special permit, which is being developed. And the idea is is to lower the barriers to entry through infrastructural requirements and costs to be able to allow more Jamaicans to participate in the cannabis industry.
Okay.
And I'd just like to say as well that crucial to that happening is that we have to expand the market. So we can grant licenses to small farmers, but there is a rich opportunity for us to to expand the marketplace, to make the marketplace bigger. And one way where the authority is actively pursuing that is to finalize the establishment of the cannabis health product sector. That means we want to be able to produce cannabis nutraceuticals. We want to be able to produce cannabis topicals and tinctures, and that will broaden the market. So for persons who don't want to consume through inhalation, they have other options of gaining the medicinal benefits of cannabis.
Right. And certainly we've been doing that since the 70s when we had folks up at UA blazing the trail with glaucoma medication. And so we have brilliant minds here. We need to be able to do the work that we are doing to contribute across the world to illnesses and whatever else this drug, this plant.
Plants, yes. I prefer that word to me.
Yes, I fixed it very quickly, Levon.
I just would love to add one more thing.
Very quickly, because we have to go.
Yes, is that how we're going to move forward and achieve our objectives is through a spirit of collaboration. So we know there's a little tension now, being quite frank, with the authority. But at the end of the day, we are a regulator and we have to protect Jamaica's integrity and the future possibilities of the industry. But collaboration and partnership is what will take us forward. And that's the direction the CLA is heading.
Yeah.
Thanks, my friend. Take care.
All the best. Take care.
I understand the tension, but if the regulators don't do what they're supposed to do, then there's no industry, because they're going to shut us down. So, got it.
Yeah, he's the chairman of the Cannabis Licensing Authority, Levon Flynn.